Hello, can you see me? If you can hear me and see me, please say hi in the chats. Hello. Hello, hello, hello. If you can see me, please say hi in the chats. Say hi in the chats for me. Okay, so I can see a lot of chats. Hi now. Okay, thank you so much. Thank you so much for joining me on this live. I'm waiting for the guest to come. In the next 4 minutes, the guest will be joining me. I hope you can hear me loud and clear. Yeah. So if you can hear me loud and clear, I would really appreciate you put it in the chat section that you can hear me loud and clear. And it's going to be a very short session because it's just going to be 30 minutes. So the guest will be talking for like 10 minutes, and then you have the opportunity, you have the next 20 minutes to ask your questions, right? So prepare your questions. If you're a business person, you want to start a business in Canada, you want to buy an existing business in Canada, it is best to prepare your questions because I can't take all the questions. Once the guests come on live, it will be a very short time. So you just have to start preparing your questions now. Okay. Oh, okay. So the guest is trying to come in, and yeah, so the guest is here now. I'm going to add him.
Oh. Hey.
Hi, Mr. Bill. Good morning.
Hi, how are you?
Fine. Thank you for joining me today. It's an exciting day, and I have lots of people already. And lots of them want to know about buying a business or an existing business in Canada. They've reached out to me, over 200 persons, and I'm like, I don't really know the steps. It will be better to talk to an expert who is into business broking, and where you give your expert advice on the very first steps to buying an existing business in Canada, especially for someone who is outside Canada. So the question is, if someone who is outside Canada approaches you to say, hey, I want to buy a business, what would you advise the person? What would you tell the person to do first? And then the other steps that follows after the first step.
Great. Well, thanks for inviting me on this show. It's quite a privilege to share sort of some of my experience in this area. Maybe the simplest way is to break it down into different stages. Like if I think of, okay, what's the process for buying a business? Because that's sort of a process by itself. And then maybe I can talk a bit about, okay, how it works if you're outside of Canada to begin with. But I mean, the basic steps of buying a business is you look around. There's a number of different places to find them. There's obviously the internet these days. There's a number of different people like myself who market businesses for sale. So the first step is to sort of find one that looks interesting or a couple that look interesting. The next step after that would be to sign a confidentiality agreement to say, yes, I'm interested in this business, but I'm willing to keep the information confidential, because most business owners don't want their name and address out there. They don't want employees to know they're for sale. So that's a key step, that you agree to keep the information confidential. At that point, you'll get a bit more detailed information. Like before you sign the confidentiality agreement, you may not even know the name of the business, the name or the address, because that's part of what we're trying to keep confidential. And so once you sign the confidentiality agreement, you get more detailed information, you get financial statements, you get all those different things. You meet with the owner. Assuming you like the business, you'd make an offer. Obviously, you'd negotiate from there. And then once the offer is agreed, it'll be subject to a number of conditions. And typical conditions would be just like if you buy a house, say financing, so you can get the money from the bank, due diligence, which is the business equivalent of a home inspection, and that can cover everything from, are there back taxes owing? Are there lawsuits outstanding? Or is all the equipment in good working order? All those different things is covered under due diligence. Once all those conditions have been satisfied, then you close the transaction, and you now own the business, and it's now up to you to run it.
Okay.
Yeah, so that's the basic steps of buying a business.
Okay. So for someone outside Canada, where do you suggest the person goes to search for businesses they would like to buy?
Yeah. So
Online is filled with so many information, and they are kind of like they don't know which
yeah,
one is real and which
yeah.
one is not real. So there's this kind of doubt if they are contacting the real people. So which places do you suggest people who are interested in buying businesses should go look at?
Yeah. Well, and that's where it gets tricky, because if you're outside Canada and you can't verify a lot of these things, and you can't meet with the owner face to face, a lot of these things just don't work well. And so the first question I get for someone who's offshore is, what is there? First of all, I mean, I need to state I'm not an immigration consultant. I'm a business consultant and a business broker. So I work with people looking to buy a business. So I don't know all the details of all the different immigration programs and the requirements. But there are two broad streams. One is the nominee, or the provincial nominee program, or PNP. And under that program, all the paperwork had to be done before they even got here and were in a position to buy. So they couldn't even buy a business offshore. I mean, theoretically, like legally, a non-resident can own a Canadian business. So that's theoretically legal. The issue becomes one of mechanics. If you're not in Canada, how do you run it, or how do you go through some of these steps to actually buy it, and how do you go through due diligence if you can't talk to the owner face to face and say, okay, I'll buy your business? So in general, under the PNP program, they would go through the process, get their sort of landed immigrant status, and then they could start the process of buying a business. There does seem to be a trend towards more on the LMIA angle, where you buy the business first and then apply as a business owner. The key issue there is you need to find a business owner who's willing to assist in that process, or you need to have someone here in Canada who can run the business for you, because the business owners, as they want to sell their business and they want to move on. So they're probably not going to sell it and then run it for another 6 months or 8 months or whatever, however long the LMIA process takes after that. So that's the difficult part in buying a business when you're not physically located in the province, ready to run it as soon as the transaction occurs.
Okay. So that means someone who is interested in buying a business should have someone who is already living in Canada to be like the frontline person who would be who will be bridging the gap between the person who is buying from outside Canada. Is that what you're trying to communicate?
Yeah, that certainly helps. Or, I mean, run the processes in parallel so that there's not a big lag between when you actually take possession of the business and when you actually are in Canada and ready to run it. Like some sellers would be willing to wait. I mean, typically there's going to be a training period anyway, so they're willing to wait a month or two after they've sold the business to help settle someone in. But if it's open ended, well, it's going to take me another 8 to 10 months to get through the government paperwork. Most people just aren't that patient. The only way they might be interested is if they have an escape clause. So I'll sell it to you 10 months from now if I haven't sold it to anyone else in the meantime. So that's sort of a weak thing from an immigrant's point of view to go to the government with, but I mean, maybe that's the starting point. And again, something like that might work better under the PNP than it would under the LMIA. And again, I'm not an immigration consultant, so I'm less familiar with the LMIA rules. But it's I think for an LMIA, you actually have to own the business before you can even apply.
Okay, so is it possible for someone to come into Canada as a visitor and then explore the option of buying an existing business? The person is a visitor and then just go ahead, scout for businesses and make an attempt to buy one. Does the rule of having all the necessary residency documents apply in this instance?
Again, I'm not an immigration consultant,
Yeah.
but yeah, certainly. Well, certainly under the PNP program, they were encouraged to come for at least a 10-day exploratory visit.
Okay.
So coming as a visitor, if they have a visitor's visa that's hopefully more than 10 days, say it's a 6-month visitor visa, then that may allow them to find a business, buy a business, get arrangement in place if they, in case they have to leave to fill out the rest of the process in terms of someone running it, and at least they've seen the business, seen the owner eye to eye, and can satisfy a lot of the issues that they need to satisfy.
Okay. Is it possible for two people to form a partnership? Let's say one person is living in Canada and the other partner is living outside Canada. They form a partnership and try to buy an existing business. Is it
Yes.
acceptable?
Yes, I believe so. And the rules on that may be slightly different between LMIA and the PNP. Like the PNP, they explicitly allow up to 3 people or 33% ownership. The LMIA, I believe you need 51%. So you might have to be a senior partner to someone else's junior partner.
Okay. Then another question I would like to ask is the writing the business plan. What role does writing a business plan really entail when it comes to buying a business?
Well, the business plan serves two functions. Under the PNP program, the business plan is what the government would use to assess, or one of the things the government would use to assess the applicant's sort of credibility or whatever. Does he understand, he or she understand how to run a business in Canada? And it would also help if you're looking to go to a bank in order to raise financing. So the bank would look at the business plan and say, okay, yes, this makes sense. We can finance this.
Is there also a possibility of let's say a business owner who is outside Canada to get his business verified, or there is no verification process? Because some people might not have businesses outside Canada, but they just want to buy an existing business. Is it possible to have their businesses outside Canada verified, or is it something that another, let's say, another consulting agency does, or is it part of the role of a business broker?
When you say verified, you mean in terms of like under the application process,
Yes.
you need to submit a statement of net worth, which might include a privately held business in your home country. And yes, there, I believe, at least in Manitoba, the government has chosen 2 accounting firms that perform that role. If they do the entire personal net worth validation, including, oh, he owns a business in such and such a country, well, what is that worth? And I mean, how, if they do a complete business valuation or what, I'm not sure what they do in order to in that, but that the validation would be done. Like I said, there are two specifically designated accounting firms that do that exact role.
Okay. Another question that comes to mind is the aspect of buying a business in another province. Let's say I live in Manitoba, and I want to buy a business in Ontario. Is it possible? Is there a way that someone in Manitoba can buy an existing business in Ontario?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, you can buy a business anywhere in Canada. Some of the issues would be similar, like the practical issues, like, okay, are you going to move to Ontario to run it, or are you going to hire someone to run it for you? So a lot of businesses that will sell for, much less than say 2 or 3 or 4 million. typically don't have, typically the owner is the key person running it. So if you buy a business for, say, $2 million in Toronto, if you're not there running it yourself personally, or you have, say, a friend or a family member whom you trust to run it for you, it may go downhill. So I mean, once you're into larger businesses, you've got professional management in place, that's less of an issue. But at first, at the smaller end, if you're not running it and you're not monitoring it on a daily basis, it's hard for a business to just keep going.
Okay, for a novice who wants to buy a business, where would you advise the person to concentrate their search on? Would you say in the city or in the rural areas? Do you think that businesses in the rural areas are the ones that can sell more compared to the ones in the city?
It's a good question. I'm going to have to sort of put it back on the personality of the person looking and what they're looking for. What I can tell you is, in general, businesses in smaller towns are, and this is sort of an inverse relationship, but they tend to be, you could either call them cheaper or you can call them more profitable. So basically, if you're looking, like, we've sold a number of rural grocery stores or gas stations, and the return on investment is significantly higher outside Winnipeg than it is in Winnipeg, because everyone wants to live in Winnipeg and very few people want to live 10 hours north of Winnipeg. So if you're willing to live in a smaller community, you can probably make more money for your investment than you can in Winnipeg. Having said that, you need to understand the risks, because a smaller town could be reliant on one or two employers, and there's all those risks. So you need to understand the area and what's driving the economy in the area.
Okay. So are there restrictions to the kind of businesses people can buy?
For the PNP, and I'm less familiar with the LMIA, but for the PNP, yes, there are. The simplest way, rather than sort of list the restrictions, is to think of it in more the other way. The government's objective is to grow employment. So what they're looking for immigrants to buy and invest in and grow, or to start for that matter, are businesses that will employ people. So businesses that would be considered purely passive, such as buying an apartment block and collecting rent, that just doesn't qualify. An operating business that, and it doesn't necessarily have to employ a whole bunch of people. It could just employ the person who's buying it and his spouse, but it's got to be active. So it's got to be something that there's employees, and it's not just, say, passive real estate. There are some specific businesses that are also prohibited, just for, say, shall I call it, on moral or ethical issues, like they don't like money lending, like payday loans. They don't like, there's also some that are perfect businesses in their own right, but don't create a lot of jobs, like, say, like, say, accounting. So if you're going to come to Canada and you're going to open up your own accounting shop and you're the sole employee, the government may not like that too much, because, again, they're looking to create jobs. But that's more of a gray zone area. The hard and fast ones are the passive investments that the government says, well, we don't want people just buying up rental properties.
Okay. I'll take a question from one of the subscribers. She says, what is the likely amount to buy a daycare center?
That's a good question. Daycare centers, there's a lot of non-for-profit daycare centers, so they wouldn't even be sold, and you're not going to make any money on it. The for-profit ones can range. I haven't seen one for sale. I've seen sort of startup ones. So if we talk about it in terms of a startup, you're probably looking at anywhere from 300,000 to 500,000, because there's a bunch of government regulations you have to follow and things like that. So you're probably looking at a 300,000 to 500,000 investment.
Wow. Okay. So what, in terms of buying a grocery shop, what do you think is the average cost of buying a grocery shop or somewhere? Maybe in the rural area, a grocery store, or maybe in the city. What's the average price of, buying into one?
Well, in that, one of the other distinctions between rural versus Winnipeg, in Winnipeg, you're probably looking just at buying the business without the real estate, and then you could probably buy the business for a couple of 100,000 plus inventory. Once you get outside Winnipeg, you're looking at buying both the real estate, the business, and then inventory on top. And then, so, I mean, inventory could be 100,000 by itself for a reasonable sized grocery store. And then the real estate might be 200,000 or 300,000, and the business itself, including all the equipment, furniture, fixtures, goodwill, all that stuff, could be another 200,000 or 300,000. So you could be looking at anywhere from 400,000 to 600,000. It'll depend on location, profitability, and like I said, if real estate's included or not. So.
Okay. This one is asking, what of the costs for a bakery?
Bakery, again, same similar factors, but bakeries could be, you could probably buy one for less than 100,000, but again, you're not buying the real estate, you're just buying the equipment. But any business that's going to sell for less than 100,000, the owner's not making a lot of money. They're making maybe they're making a salary for themselves for making. So let's say they're making 30 or 40,000, and you might buy the business for basically 80 to 100 or something in that range. So.
Okay. Then one more question: is there any opportunity for farm partnership or buying a farm from retiring owners?
Buying a farm for sure. Now, farms are very expensive for a number of factors. Basically, farmland will sell for anywhere from 8,000 to 10,000 an acre, and to be sort of economic, you probably need a minimum size of, I don't know, 400, 500, 600 acres. So you're looking at, I mean, that's north of $1 million right there. A farm partnership, and this applies to basically any partnership. If you bring the partner, then absolutely. If you're hoping to partner with someone local, then some of the issues that we talked about in terms of the seller looking to sell and cash out, partnerships are tricky in the best of times. So you get two people from similar background, similar culture, similar whatever, and say, okay, you're now business partners, or they've known each other for a while and they become business partners. That has, I mean, I think the failure rate for business partnership is higher than the failure rate of marriages.
Wow.
And then if you add into the mix two people who don't know each other, so if an immigrant says, I'm going to partner up with a Canadian farmer and I'll buy the business over time, the risk of things falling apart is pretty high. So anything's possible if you find the right two people at the right time with the right personalities, maybe, but there are risks in that type of approach. But like I said, if you already know someone, you're saying, I want to partner with this individual. We've had that happen where individuals, two immigrants partnered up. And I think you asked this question earlier. Two immigrants partner up and bought a business together. That makes perfect sense. But if you're hoping to partner up with an existing business owner, just be ready for conflicts and misunderstandings and all sorts of cultural issues.
Okay, so the next question is, to buy a health food shop, do you need to be a recognized health provider in Canada?
No, not if you're just selling health food. Like the products you sell would need to be certified at some level, but if you're just selling products that have been certified by other people, then I don't think you need any um, specific certification or whatever. Now, I do notice from the icon that the individual looks like they make their own, and so that might be an issue. If you want to make your own health products and sell them, then you may need to get those health products certified. But if you're just a retailer selling, like I said, off the shelf health products, I don't think there's any specific regulations.
Okay, I don't know if you can answer this question. I know you're not an immigration consultant, so does this fall under the question you can likely answer? It says, can a startup in an ideation stage with much work done approach the PNP, and how robust is the support Manitoba can offer the business? I don't know if you can answer that.
That's a good question. It's certainly you can certainly apply through the PNP. I do know they have sort of a subset. And I don't know if it's a subset from PNP, but they do have something for, especially in the IT business, and I don't know if this is an IT business, but they do look, when you're asking about types of business they don't like, types of business they do like are sort of IT businesses or startups or whatever. So yeah, that's definitely something that the PNP would look at, and the more work you have done, the more concrete your business plan is, the better. In terms of the support Manitoba can offer the business, it depends. The government does, for startup businesses, the government does have certain programs that help businesses market the business. Depending on the type of business, if it's a manufacturing business, there's a number of employment grants and things like that. But yeah, so yeah, I definitely encourage someone with a good idea. The PNP program, that's what they're looking for in the business plan stage. What's the idea, and does it make sense, and have they done their homework in terms of running this business in Manitoba?
Okay. Then, oh, not this one. What about owning a restaurant? What are the regulations?
Okay, there's some basic sort of health regulations. So you'd need there'd be a health inspector and fire inspector that would come along before you even open and make sure you've got the premises are clean, and all the precautions are there. And the health inspector, I think, visits once a year, at random times, just to check to make sure things are still clean or whatever. Other than that, I don't know if there's any other specific regulations. There's now right now there's a bunch of regulations about COVID, but that's specific to the phase we're in right now.
Okay, I will take one more question. How is the business of bottled water like in Canada? Is there a market for it? Does the government supply water for monthly bills? Is the bottled water business lucrative?
It's This is a tough one to answer. You can make money. I think the key to making money here is brand awareness. Like, if you can somehow brand your product as better than the next guy's bottled water, then yeah, you can make money in it. You can get almost an unlimited supply of water for a nominal cost inside the city. I mean, you'll pay per cubic meter or cubic yard, however they measure it. But it's compared to, if you're selling each bottle for 50 cents, it's probably less than a penny's worth of water in there. So the markup is huge. So yes, there's a market for it. the government does supply the water. Is it lucrative? Again, that would come back to how you brand it, how you market it, and just the volumes you can get. I know a guy in this business, an immigrant, and he's doing okay. But the trick is, I mean, it's very costly to set up. So the trick is to get the volume high enough to cover your fixed costs.
Okay. So I think that will be the last question I will take for today, because I know you have a meeting afterwards and I have to give you time to prepare for your meeting. But I want to ask that you give a summary of what business brokers do for people who intend to buy business.
Okay.
Yeah, so that they can learn from you and contact you for future purposes. If they intend to, let's say, partner with someone in Canada to buy a business, they will have to contact you on what to do. So,
Okay.
yeah.
Okay, great. Thank you. Yeah, so we help people buy and sell businesses. So that entails a number of different things. So everything from business valuation. So what's this business worth? To finding 90% of our brokerage activity, we're on the sell side, so we're working on behalf of the seller. So we'd be working with the buyer, like the people listening today who are looking to buy a business in Canada. So we would help them go through the process, but we are representing the seller, so we are an agent for the seller, if you will. But that, we help the buyer evaluate different businesses on the criteria that fits to them. We also work as business consultants, so that for immigrants, if they need either the business concept form, which is sort of step one of the new PNP program, and the business plan, which is sort of step two. We help people with those two aspects, and then I mentioned buying a business. Also, if you found a business that you are interested in, that we're not necessarily representing the seller, we can help you do some of the steps like the due diligence or the valuation. So we've worked with a lot of people who say, hey, I want to buy this business. How much is it worth? And so we can help them work through the numbers to figure out what that business is worth, and help make an offer and close the transaction. But thank you, Wolo, for this opportunity. It's interesting. It's amazing how technology can scan the globe these days.
Yeah, thank you so much for taking your time out of a very busy schedule to join me on this broadcast. And I'm sure some people will be contacting you from here to possibly discuss maybe drafting a business plan for them or something. I don't know,
Okay.
with the purpose of buying a business. So
Okay.
I want to say thank you so much for joining me on this broadcast, and I want to wish you a beautiful day ahead.
Yeah, you too.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.